Hi friends and welcome back. We are at the end of the 8th week of this play along journal series here on YouTube. I am working through 2 complete art journals from beginning to end. So as you could see there from the beginning, I had a tag already in that pocket of the page that I am working on, but I decided to move it to the second half of the signature where there is another pocket. And the reason I did this is because when that left side of the page is flipped, you can really see the tag through that, and that tag was teal, but the page that I did previously to this one is a chartreuse color. So it would have been fine, but there was just something in me that didn't quite like the way that looked together. And so I decided to move the tag that I had already put in there and put it into that second half. I like to have elements kind of pre-made a lot of times for my journals that really coordinate and then make it easier as I create, that I don't have to start and make all of those elements again. But it's okay to move them around. They don't have to be set in stone where you originally planned them. So give yourself the freedom to kind of change your mind, change things around, and the great thing is you give yourself a nice little head start. So even if you don't use that particular one in the page that you're working on, it kind of gives you some ideas to bounce off of. So I'm deciding here that I am going to make a new tag for this page because it still has a pocket, and I love the idea of giving it its own tag. So I'm doing this in a collage style. So I picked out a piece of that craft cardstock. It's a nice, sturdy, heavyweight paper, and it just gives me a nice base to collage onto. So I'm just using my glue stick and little bits of paper that I have and doing some collage on top. I'm kind of sticking in that black and white color scheme. I like the black and white that's on the left side of the page, and black and white will go perfect with the chartreuse that's going to shine through. So it kind of gives me then some options if I want to decorate further on top of it of what I'm going to do. This is one of my favorite ways to use up little scraps because I pretty much save everything, but I try to find ways to use them. Otherwise, if we're just saving everything and we don't find some useful way to use them, your studio can get really overwhelmed with the amount of just stuff that you have on hand, especially all those little things that then have to find a way to get organized. I'm playing around with these different size of scraps. I'm tearing them down, kind of auditioning them, seeing what fits, seeing what doesn't fit, and seeing what I like. Now you can use that base piece of I used cardstock there, and you can leave some showing through, or you can do kind of what I did on the cover, and I ended up just covering it up. So you could really use anything. Actually, like a cereal box weight of cardboard gives you a really nice base for tags. It's thicker, so it's not going to get bent around, but at the same time, it's not too thick that it is too bulky for your journal. So I just was marking the sides there of where I want to cut. I want those edges to be flush. I don't want anything sticking off the edges. A lot of times I will do more organic edges to things, but on this one, just going into the pocket, I thought it would be nice that it would have a defined sides. So I'm just using my paper trimmer and cutting that down to size. So as you can see, that was a really quick and easy way to make a tag. And often I will actually just make these ahead of time. It's a super fun way to get to play with all of your scraps and put them to good use. And I'll usually just make quite a few at once when I'm working on a specific colorway or whatever it may be. So I want to add a little bit more interest onto the top of these, and so I'm going to bring in this fun number stencil. It's one of the Donna Downey designed stencils. As always, I try to link everything down in the description below so you can go find all of those fun supplies that I use for yourself if you're ever interested. So I added in some white gesso first, and I'm coming back in and adding a little bit of black as well. I think the white just didn't stand out quite as much as I wanted it to, but the fun thing also about layering your colors like this is you get a little bit more interest than you would if you just use one or the other for colors. And so kind of keeps things interesting and unexpected. I'm rounding off my corners with my corner rounder there and going to punch a hole in the top so that way I can get some fun fabric and some texture sticking out of the top of my journal. I'm pulling some fabric bits that I have sitting around on my desk, and since these two were a little bit shorter, I'm not doubling them over before putting them through the hole. And so since they were shorter, I'm using two different pieces. I wouldn't have to, but I often like a full look, and so I'm doubling up those pieces, and that way it actually gives some interest as far as what fabrics I'm using as well. You get kind of that multi-dimensional look. I'm adding a piece of tape around the outside. This is the fun new binding tape from Wow Studios. Dee Dee designed these, and they are wonderful. They're super duper sticky. So you kind of have to be careful when you're ripping them or doing whatever, because if they do get stuck to each other, you're kind of out of luck and got to rip a new piece. But for their actually intended purpose for binding journals and along that way, they would be an awesome product. When I saw them, I loved the designs on them, and I will use them some for binding some books and experimenting that way. But I also just wanted to use them like, say, like a washi tape. Now, of course, they're way more adhesive than a washi tape, but just in that same kind of idea. So I use washi tapes when I do collage and in my journals like this, in the backgrounds, whatever. So I'm thinking about it in the same aspect as I would any other decorative tape or even decorative paper. And so don't limit yourself to a supply's intended use. Look at it as what else could you use it for that would be interesting. So instead of taking this to my machine like I often would to stitch on those fabrics, I decided why not add even more fun texture to the piece by doing some hand stitching to attach the fabric to the top. The other option would be, well, machine stitching, like I said, but also just a stapler. If you don't have any sewing supplies on hand, a stapler is a great way to attach those fabric pieces, and it's really quick and easy, so you don't have to spend too much time on the attaching method if that's not your thing. For me, hand stitching is just such an easy way to add texture to a page or to a design that I'm working on that I like to add it as much as possible. I'm sure that also stems from my background of having a quilting background, that I just love the tactile feel of fabrics and stitching and all of that. So I was really messy, really wonky with my stitches. I was not going in any particular pattern, but more so just randomly sticking the needle back and forth and creating a crisscross all over kind of design, just making sure that that fabric was intact. It wasn't going to go anywhere. But I just really liked the organic approach to all of it. I want to add a little bit of design, little interest onto the back of this tag as well. And so I'm bringing out one of my stickers. I'm just in love with these chartreuse stickers. They are available on my website now in the 1.5 inch size and a 2.5 inch size. But I just think that they add such a fun and easy interest to whatever you're working on. And I just think that they're very versatile. Plus, that chartreuse color for me is just to die for. It is my favorite. And so I think I could probably add it onto every page if I wanted to. I never get tired of it. So I think it's fun to add a little bit of the chartreuse, mainly for the reason what I was thinking when I was creating this is I did chartreuse on the page that was before, and since you kind of see through those pages all kind of coordinate together, it's a fun contribution, I think, to collaborate with the page before. I think that's one of the biggest perks to working in a handmade journal or creating your own handmade journals is you can make all the pages different sizes. You get such a fun, organic feeling to your pages that they don't all have to be uniform and the same. I wanted to add a little bit more grunge and messiness to the back side of this tag, and so I added in some white gesso, rubbing it in with my fingers, and then also adding in Stabilo All and with a wet paintbrush, just kind of spreading that pigment around. I want to add in just some final white art marks to this page. This white mark making pen is one of my favorite newer supplies in the last year because it really marks over pretty much everything and is such a nice opaque white that you don't often get that in a paint marker. If you haven't done so already, make sure that you are subscribed to my channel and like this video, leave a comment. And if you subscribe, that means that you'll be the first to know about the new videos that I'm posting, new tutorials and new offerings. And if you want to receive freebies and be the first to know about shop updates and all of that other good stuff, make sure that you are signed up to my email newsletter. That sign up link is in the description below. I'm finishing up here and putting everything back together, putting in my tag, and the way that I designed it, it's really great because you can have either side facing forward, and I think it goes really well. I hope that you guys loved this video today. Let me know what you're thinking, and I will see you next week for another play along video.